Have you ever thought about a map, not just as lines on paper, but as something sacred? Like a blueprint, literally born from the body of a goddess. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to explore this incredible story of faith, tragedy, and, believe it or not, geography. We're talking about the creation of the Shakti Peeths.
So it all boils down to this one really mind-blowing question. How on earth does a tragic love story end up creating a sacred map, a whole network of holy places that stretches across an entire subcontinent? It sounds impossible, right? Well, to figure it out, we've got to go back to the beginning, to a family drama of, and I mean this literally, cosmic proportions.
Okay, so our story kicks off not with some peaceful creation myth, but with a major conflict. Seriously, it's like a classic family feud, just played out on a cosmic stage. You've got three main players here. The goddess Sati, her husband, the one and only Lord Shiva, and then there's her very powerful, very traditional father, Daksha.
And right here, you can see the huge clash that's at the heart of this whole thing. On one side, you have Sati and Shiva. Now Shiva, he's a total ascetic, a mystic who's all about meditating in the mountains, completely outside of society and tradition. But then, on the other side, you've got her dad, Daksha. He's a king, all about rules, rituals, and power. So for a guy like Daksha, this wild, dreadlocked mystic was the last person he wanted for a son-in-law. No way.
And Daksha's disapproval, it wasn't quiet. To really stick it to them, he decides to throw this huge, grand fire ceremony, a yagna. And this wasn't some simple mistake, oops, forgot to send an invite. Oh no, this was a calculated public insult. He invites every single god and celestial being you can think of, except for Sati and Shiva. And that one deliberate exclusion, that's the spark that's about to set the whole universe on fire.
So what happens? Well, Sati, against Shiva's warnings, decides she has to go. She wants to confront her father. But when she gets there, she's just hit with this wall of insults aimed at her husband, and she just can't take it. In an act of ultimate defiance, she sacrifices herself in that very same ceremonial fire. And that single act, it just triggers this insane chain reaction, turning a deeply personal tragedy into something that will literally reshape the world. The aftermath is, there's no other word for it, cataclysmic. Shiva is just consumed by a grief so powerful, so absolute, that it threatens to tear the universe apart. He starts his Tandava, the dance of destruction, all while holding Sati's body. The cosmos is literally unraveling. So, to save everything, Lord Vishnu has to step in. He uses his divine weapon, the Sudarshana chakra, to break apart Sati's body, causing the pieces to scatter and fall all across the land. And here's the incredible part. Every single spot where a piece of her body touched the earth became holy ground. It was instantly consecrated, just pulsating with her divine energy. These places are what we now call Shakti Peeths, which literally means seats of power. And you have to understand, these aren't just buildings or temples. They're seen as direct connection points to that raw divine feminine energy. So you might think these spots are just randomly scattered, right? Nope, not at all. They actually form a kind of sacred map, a divine body laid out over the physical earth. And this incredible map, it became the blueprint for one of the most important pilgrimage routes in the entire world. Now, there are a lot of these sacred sites, but there's one number that really stands out, 18. These 18 are known as the Maha-Shakti Peeths, the great ones. Think of them as the major power centers, the most potent and important of all the sites. So why these 18 in particular? Well, this group was famously celebrated by one of the most brilliant minds in Indian history, the philosopher Saint Adi Shankaracharya. He even wrote a famous hymn about them, which basically codified their importance and created a spiritual roadmap for pilgrims that people are still following today, centuries later. Okay, but it's not like the divine energy at each of these places is exactly the same. Not at all. Think of it like a prism. The goddess, the Shakti, manifests in all these different forms, each one reflecting the specific vibe of the location, and importantly, the body part that fell there. Let's look at some examples, because this is where it gets really cool. In Mysuru, she's worshipped as Chamundeshwari, a fierce, 8-armed warrior goddess, a total demon slayer. Then you go to Kanchipuram, and she's Kamakshi, this peaceful, loving goddess holding a bow made of sugarcane. And then, get this, at Jwalamukhi, there's no statue at all.
She's worshipped as pure eternal flames coming right out of the rock, just raw primordial energy. This idea of a sacred anatomy is absolutely central to understanding this. So, for example, the temple at Kamakya, which is considered one of the most powerful, is believed to be where her yoni, her womb, fell. It represents the very power of cosmic creation. Then you have a temple in Sri Lanka, linked to her groin, or another in Bihar that marks where her breast fell, symbolizing nourishment and life. Each part has a deep, symbolic meaning.
But those 18 great sites? They're really just the beginning. They're like the major hubs in a much bigger, living, breathing spiritual network that stretches across the entire subcontinent.
So you'll see different numbers mentioned in various texts, but the most widely accepted count is 51 Shakti Peeths. And with this larger number, you start to get a much more complete picture of that divine body we were talking about. Just stop and think about that for a second. What this means is that this whole grid of 51 spots creates a complete divine body mapped directly onto the land. You have the throat in Kashmir, the right foot way over in Tripura. The land itself is the body of the goddess. It's an incredible concept. And here's something that's really amazing. This sacred map totally ignores modern political borders. It doesn't care about them. You've got major sites in Pakistan where her brain is said to have fallen. Her knees are in Nepal. There are sites in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh. It's this powerful reminder of a shared cultural heritage that's way older than any of these modern countries, and it still connects millions of people across these borders today. Underneath this whole map, there's a really deep philosophy at play. At every single one of these sites, you have two things. First, you have Shakti, that's the divine feminine energy, and second, each site is guarded by a Bhairava, who is a fierce form of Shiva, representing consciousness. And the symbolism here is huge. It's saying that energy and consciousness aren't separate. You can't have one without the other. They're two sides of the exact same coin. And if you thought that was deep, it goes even deeper. Some traditions link the 51 Peeths to the 51 letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. Think about that. The divine body isn't just mapped onto the land, it's also mapped onto the very building blocks of sacred language and sound. The universe, the land, the word, it's all connected. So let's just recap. Out of this one tragic sacrifice, this entire sacred geography was born. This network, it's so much more than just a list of temples. It's living proof of an idea that the divine isn't some far-off thing in the sky. It's right here. It's present in the very ground we walk on. And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. The whole story of the Shakti Peeths is a giant metaphor, right? It's telling us that every little piece of the universe, and yeah, that includes every part of our own bodies, our own minds, is a potential seat of the goddess, a place of secret power. So I'll leave you with this to think about. If a divine body can be mapped onto the earth, turning an entire subcontinent into holy ground, then where do we find that sacred map inside of ourselves?